An aircraft carrier is a miniature reference to life at sea. Once aboard an aircraft carrier, it is 6 months at least before you see an actual home. In such cases, the aircraft carrier becomes an entire city, a peaceful home for those who don't get themselves deployed into any trouble, or a prison cell for those who find themselves on the wrong side of the shore patrol. Aircraft carrier is equipped to become the home for the notorious with the introduction of a prison facility inside the carrier. Life aboard an aircraft carrier is thrilling. However, how fun is life inside a jail of the largest aircraft carrier? Is the jail system comparable to the prison facility on land? Stay tuned to know everything. Every aircraft carrier has a detention or jail facility, be it the largest of them all, the USS Gerald R. Ford class. The system has been introduced to keep and control the sailors who misbehave or create any nuisance aboard, because any silly mistakes on an aircraft carrier can serve a loss of over a few million or billion dollars, especially the ones which are done with intention. There is no concept of faults on an aircraft carrier. At times, people can be thrown into jail for committing minor errors for which they will have to survive for the rest of their team, or so decided by the higher official over bread and water. They can be a lot cruel. The sea is subdivided into various hotspots. Let's say sailors are deployed on an aircraft carrier in the Middle East, Mediterranean, or some other hotspot. It will be difficult to ship a sailor back to the United States to lock them up. That is why not only the carrier but also the large ships bring with them a jail, and it's called the brig. A brig has a compilation of small compartments, depending on the number of sailors on board. Each cell inside the brig is typically made to accommodate only one sailor. However, in a few carriers, there are brigs that can carry a lot more than 100 prisoners. Contrary to popular belief, the brig on a carrier is not a large jail with numerous cells. There are typically only 4 or 5 people inside, and since it is a little cell for them to escape, they are typically not behind bars. Instead, they are kept in cage-like cells that are guarded around the clock. Life in the brig is much more regimented than it is in freedom, and their meals may not be as good. They may be given bread and water for up to 3 days at a time. The conception to throw sailors who are in the lowest 3 pay grades into solitary confinement is one of those brigs when they misbehave is an old age thing. The ship commander is in charge to make the hard decision at any time. There is a lot of lore about the brig among sailors and Marines.
Down the center of his back, right, then work your way around to the front of his chest. There you go. You want to go down both sides of his legs. All right, so you can go over here and you can use the telephone.
Some can be really skillful at their work. However, there are human beings at the end of the day. There are chances that these sailors can go astray and find themselves in any number of goofball situations when given too much time on their hands, such as issues along the carrier shore, late to duty, drinking and gambling on board. That is strictly contrary to the legal certainties codified in the Uniform Code of Military Justice. By military branches, the Navy has the most number of brigs. The naval brigs are of 5 types: naval brigs, consolidated confinement facilities, pre-trial confinement facilities, afloat brigs, and detention facilities. The smallest brig has 0 to 2 inmates. Any kind of misbehavior can lead to jail confinement. If you'd think that an upcoming battle would give you some leeway for any nuisance, then it's for the best to keep in mind that heading towards a fight won't keep a sailor away from getting tossed in the brig. It was noted by historian Gordon Prange on the acts of Mark Mitcher, the captain of the aircraft carrier USS Hornet CV-8, in the book Miracle at Midway, when he threw a couple of sailors in the brig for minor infractions prior to the Battle of Midway. Under Article 15 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, sailors are sent to the brig after what is known as Captain's Mast when it's a necessity. The amount of time someone may be confined is limited, according to the naval orientation. The exact limits depend on the rank of the commanding officer and the rank of the accused. According to the code, there are a few forms of punishment such as admonition or reprimand, which can be done by a flag or general officer in command. He can arrest you in quarters for 30 consecutive days. Any officer commanding LCDR and above can confine a sailor for 3 consecutive days only on E3 and below. Aboard an aircraft carrier or correction custody for 30 consecutive days. Alongside this, forfeiture of pay or detention of pay can also arise. According to PBS, a tour of the brig aboard the USS Nimitz and Mac Adams. On the 2005 deployment, there were a total of 12 detainees in the Nimitz brig. They were detained for 3 days on average. Every sailor or mariner knows the existence of the brig. However, some might not even see it in their career. unlike some who might just get a taste of it. In the older system of the Brig, one cell would just have a folding chair and a tiny bed to sleep along with a bronze mirror, which is not glass. It's only a clap of metal that's polished, so prisoners won't harm themselves.
They all know what's expected out of them. It's just following the rules, basically. I mean, most of them have no problem with it. I mean, right now, this is pretty quiet for a pod.
The cells are too small and they do not have anywhere for the sailors to relieve themselves. That is the duty of the Brig officer or the officer in command of the Brig. Prisoners are allowed to relieve themselves in a separate toilet associated with the Brig while on guard of the officer in charge. There also exists an infirmary instead of the Brig, which is a much nicer space. In addition to the holding cells, there are detention cells inside the Brig, popularly to detent sailors for a day or two. They also work great to sober up intoxicated sailors. While it is true that our military is comprised primarily of law-abiding soldiers, sailors, airmen, coast guardsmen, and marines, the truth is that they also serve as a reflection of the general public. One may be tempted to imagine that the Brig on board a Navy ship would resemble the jail in Mayberry from the classic Andy Griffith television series, where the drunken town drunk can enter and exit at will, but this would be erroneous. The Brig is a serious place to be. The entire point of being put in a Brig is to put the one away from their friends into isolation, a weird sleep arrangement place, minimum food, water, and limited time to use the toilet. As mentioned earlier, there is no place for mistakes aboard. When you're committing a crime aboard, you will do the time for it too. Brig system is a form of discipline, and the hope is that those who commit minor infractions will be able to learn their lessons. But for those who are inclined to commit serious or major crimes aboard, these Brigs are secure and serious as any jail or prison. The only added reality in this case is that you have to deal with military discipline and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. With that, we've come to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the like and subscribe button. Also press the bell notification to never miss an update from us.